Hi, I'm Kate,
And I'm Toni, and
and
this
this
is
is
Sip
Sip
and
and
Stim.
Stim.
Pour a cup, take a break, settle down and join us on a whim. Gentle thoughts, honest talks, it's time for a sip and stim.
Sip and Stim is where autism parenting meets real life, sharing stories, strategies, and the moments that don't make it into the textbooks.
All right, Tony. How are you doing this week?
I'm good. It's been a week. I think Monday, I was looking at the calendar thinking, oh, this has been a very long week. Um, my son actually stepped on a sewing needle, and we were at the doctor's multiple days in a row, still in his foot. And then I think I broke my foot the other day. But other than that,
Mm.
I'm, you know, counting my blessings. I know that in all, we're healthy, and he's somehow out there running around with a needle in his foot. And yeah, so you would never know. How about you? How's your week been?
Well, I was in a similar state. I thought that Monday was actually Thursday.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's been a rough one, but yeah, we're definitely getting through. Nothing exciting like a needle in the foot, but we're every day is a new adventure here, so you know.
Was it anything extraordinary or just like the same old, same old?
Yeah, just the same old. Grayson did get a new friend. I keep calling it a chicken, but it's actually a hen, an emotional support hen. It's stuffed though, so it's not real. But he's been carrying it around everywhere. And he's been putting the dog leash on it or it on the dog leash, and walking it. And I had no idea that he even knew how to do that. And it's really cute and cool to see him kind of
Oh,
do new things with that. So yeah, it's really cute. And his name is Tyson because where we live, there is a Tyson plant, which is kind of morbid in a way too.
yeah,
So yeah, so we have Tyson, the emotional support hen, in our house right now.
very cute. I would love to
Yeah,
see that.
I'll have to show you sometime.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm kind of this topic I think that we're about to discuss is a hard one, but I think it's a really necessary one. Um, Today we wanted to talk a bit about like what building our village looks like. And sometimes you kind of might anticipate having a child and thinking, well, I'm looking forward to grandma and grandpa stepping in and this person. And sometimes it doesn't always work out that way. Now, I will say, me not having a child that has autism, I do have a lot of friends that will share, wow, I wish that I had what you had, or, and these are families that have neurotypical children, and they don't have the village they anticipated having.
Mm,
I know like when you first have your baby and things change, the vibe, the relationships with your friends change. I was really, really lucky. Somehow we have about three sets of families that had children all the same year that I had my first.
oh wow.
So our friend group really became parents together. And I don't think we were as close to them as we became once we had children. But we were friends prior. So I recognize how extraordinary that is. Um, my mother now helps us with our children, but prior to that, she was working. It was COVID that actually got her to stop working and got her to move in with us. So that was really helpful. But it can be hard for a lot of people. I know that our situation is unique. What was your situation? Like, I mean, you know, everyone that has a child, they kind of, I'm sure that people don't anticipate their child being born with a disability or, autism or other
Mhm.
disorders. How was that experience like for you, maybe upon birthing your first child, and then even Grayson, who has much more needs?
Yeah, so when Rosalind was born in 2015, um, I we were living about 45 minutes away from where we are now. We were literally 5 minutes away from my parents. And my parents were very involved with helping out with Roslyn. My parents would watch her on Sunday mornings so that I could still sing at church and things like that. Anytime I really needed like a sitter, one of my parents or both, or one of my two sisters that were still living at home, they they would all volunteer to help out. Um, and honestly, she was typical with her development and everything like that for the most part. So it wasn't really difficult or anything. She and my mom actually developed this really cute relationship, and they were very, very close. And even now, like a lot of the things that Rosalind does or says, she resembles my mother, and she gets this sassy tone sometimes that just reminds me so much of my mom that it's really funny. Um, but we moved after having Grayson, um, and we moved here to where we currently are, and we are about a 7 minute drive from Derek's parents. Um, we had a big change. We went from being like 5 minutes from a big city, well, bigger city, I guess. Um, and we now live with cows in our backyard. So it's very different. But the reason why we moved to this area was because Derek's parents were able to help out with Grayson more, and they were a lot more actively involved with our kids at the time. We moved here in 2021, right after I had lost my job in 2020, and 2021 came around. My mother was very ill at the time. She was battling leukemia, and so she was unable to help out with the kids. She had a lot of appointments. She was just not really home or around. So Derek's parents really kind of jumped in and helped out. And Grayson absolutely adored um, my father-in-law. And um, really, they just were so incredibly helpful. Um, and they're great. And that whole dynamic, the change between my family versus Derek's family was very interesting. His family is very small, my family is very large. So it it was an adjustment, but you know, we figured it out. Um, and I think that being here in a bigger home in a more rural area where Grayson has the room to run around and be himself, I think that that really has made a positive difference. Being so close to family has also helped. Um, I would say our support system has really kind of fallen apart though. Um,
Mm.
and honestly, it's no one's fault per se. My mother passed away in 2022, the beginning of 2022. So that was an automatic loss for Roslyn and for all of us, but um, that was a huge support for her that is no longer with us. And um, then in 2024, we lost Derek's stepdad, who was just so connected with Grayson. He basically raised Grayson while I worked full time.
Oh,
And yeah, and that was very difficult. Um, so there we lost two of our main support system, two of our people that, you know, were really the at the core of our support system.
yeah.
And yeah, it was just it was a very hard hit to us. We had to really modify everything that we did and do. And we kind of noticed those who were remaining in that system kind of started to fade back. Um, and now we're kind of left with the bare minimum.
Yeah, that's tough. I mean, the people that, the spouses of, your dad and your mother-in-law, was it more so that the loved ones that you lost, they kind of were the ones that had more confidence helping you with your children? What was it? What made the others kind of fade back, or do you know?
I think, well, my dad wasn't ever really like super involved with my older sisters and I when we were growing up, but he was very involved more with my younger sisters. He just worked a lot. He owned businesses, so he just wasn't around. Um, and so he never really got the whole like, you know, baby slash like toddler phase under his belt. Um, but he's great with like adolescents and teens. So,
Mm,
I mean, he does a really wonderful job with Rosalind now, now that she's a little bit older. Um, but not saying he wasn't great, before, but like it's just very different.
yeah,
Um, and I think that that was kind of his, just not as comfortable. And my mother, her personality was very, some would say overbearing. I would just say very overbearing. Um, so yeah, she was very determined when it came to her grandchildren. So um, yeah, she would just jump right in. And Rick was very similar to my mother. He never had children of his own.
mm,
So when we had children, he just was all over it. He was ecstatic. I mean, he really just he loved Rosalind, adored her. And then when Grayson came, he just had such a special bond with Grayson. Um, I mean, from day one, you could just tell that they were going to be two peas in a pod. Um, and it was really great to see their relationship develop throughout the time that they had together.
that's really special.
Yeah,
Especially because, like, he's family, but it's always different when you have someone that's married into the family. Some people don't have that same, connection. So
yeah,
that's really special that you guys had that. And I'm sure that's very hard to have lost both of those people. Um,
yeah.
so you kind of had to, like, things have fallen apart. You've kind of had to rebuild, and kind of, where are you in that? Or do you feel like you have support? I know you were sharing previously that, Grayson recently got some, uh, was it his an RBT or a nurse? I can't remember exactly who you said, but you said you just had someone really wonderful join his team. Like, what's that been looking like lately?
Yeah, so we have been on a respite waiting list for about 7 years, and we kind of gave up hope that that was going to happen for us. So we decided to find someone who used to work with Grayson, um, and she actually was his BCBA for 4 years, and she left the company that she had that we received services, ABA services through, and she we just she was wonderful. She was with us through a lot of things, through the passing of my mother and Rick, and she's from day one, she's just been wonderful. And she and Grayson have a very special bond, similar to Rick and Grayson. Um, and she when she was when she let when she was let go from her job, she it was very abrupt. And after having her as a BCBA for 4 years and then just having her gone one day, it was very um it kind of shook things up here. And we needed to find a way to get him the services that he needed as far as like the care and the support that he needed and we needed and we needed it to be with somebody that we trusted, and she was in need of a job. So it all kind of just played out that, she had messaged me and asked how he was, and it didn't even cross my mind to have her do the hours for this program, until really it was just by fate. I had mentioned it and said, I know you're a BCBA, but would you want to do something like this? And she was looking for something new, and she did, and the rest is history. But she's wonderful. I'm technically her boss, I guess. But yeah, so I'm we manage things on our own. We make our own schedule, but she basically provides respite services for us. And she takes him out and works on goals with him in the community and here at home.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
she's been honestly, it's been probably the best service that we've had yet.
that's great. Yeah,
Hmm.
so your support system really, I mean, when I think about support system for what it means with my family, my kids are now school age, but prior to that, it really was just family. We had my daughter in daycare for a short little blip of time, but it was mostly like my aunts would help me watch them periodically when they were really little. Now they're in school, and that's part of it.
Hmm.
But for someone like Grayson, it doesn't seem like it's just family, friends. Um, Also his therapist. And what are some other examples of people that have played roles in your support system in your village?
Um, I mean, like I said, I come from a big family. So I actually have four sisters, and all of them have a very they each have a special relationship with both of my kids. Um, they I think that now that my older sister and my younger sister, they have two children of their own each. They kind of, em- I guess they can kind of relate to what I go through to an extent. Um, but I think of Grayson as my forever infant in a way. Except he's mobile, so I guess maybe my forever toddler.
Mhm.
Um, he's just he's just almost bigger than me. I mean, he's almost taller than me. So, I don't our village is really kind of it really is kind of just made up of professionals. It's yes, my sisters help out when they can. My father has a uh back disorder which doesn't allow him to help out. He's essentially handicapped.
Mhm.
Um, and Derek's mother is just very not connected with our family. And so we don't have really anybody else other than his RBTs and BCBA and the former BCBA who is now working with us. We have like former staff, like RBTs and people like that, no longer work with us at the company that we are with. Um, but we maintain a relationship with them, and so they, visit us and stuff, but they're not like actively involved with our day-to-day life.
Right.
Um, so yeah, I mean, we really rely heavily on our nursing program, the ABA program, and everything that we have, the services we have.
That was a big shift. You go from having your mom super involved, and then you move, and then you have your father-in-law, or I guess you would say your stepfather-in-law, however you refer to
Hmm.
him, and very helpful and involved, to then losing all of that, and then to primarily be getting your support from professionals. I know, like, we're a very private family, and we love, my husband's very introverted. I don't really know what I am, probably somewhere in the middle. And some of the feedback that I get from families, like when we start talking about having services in their home, um, it's hard for them to let us just come in their home.
Hmm.
Um, And I can understand that because that will be hard for me, I think. So was that like probably now I'm assuming you're just so used to it, but was that hard for you guys to kind of open your home and be very vulnerable in front of all these strangers that are potentially judging your parenting and, I can imagine it's being hard.
Yeah. Yeah. It was very difficult at first. Especially because Grayson is 2-on-1 for RBTs. We
Mm,
almost always have a BCBA assistant or the BCBA here and a nurse. So he's technically like 4 or 5-on-1. Um, our house is not big enough for all of these people, so it's a lot. So we're basically like sitting on top of each other often. Um, and so now it doesn't bother me because these people spend 12 hours a day with us at times. Um, so they are very used to us and we are very used to them. Um, but it was very challenging at first. I am a very particular person about organization and keeping things nice and neat. And it never is when you have a
mm,
kid with autism.
yeah,
Um, and it was very difficult for me to let go of the everything has to be nice when people come over
yeah.
mentality. And now people come in the door and, you know, Grayson could have pee on the floor. He could be smearing poop on the wall. He could just be running around naked. Honestly, I never know what these people are walking into, and they signed up for it when they signed up for the job.
Yeah,
That's kind of how I see things. Um,
yeah.
but every day something new is definitely happening here, and I mean, I apologize in advance, but that's I don't apologize after. So,
So I can say as professional, that stuff never bothers me. As a mom, oh, that stuff bothers me. But I
yeah.
can say truly that, and this is probably an overgeneralization, but like truly, we don't care. We know. We
Mhm.
know what we're coming into. You're right. We signed up for it and we know what we're getting into. So I definitely think carry on. Don't feel bad. I don't even think the apology is necessary. I mean, it is what it, hey, we got poop on our wall today. It is what it is.
Yeah, I mean,
I'll
it's
get to
cleaned
it when we get
up.
to
Yeah,
it.
it's cleaned up. I mean, I bleach and I disinfect, but
Sure, sure.
it's yeah, it's just very, and I don't do it for anybody else. I do it for me because of, I'm just very particular. Um,
Right.
but yeah, I have had such a difficult time letting go of just letting things be because I can't control it. I can't. I've tried and I've driven myself crazy in the past trying to do it, but it is what it is. That's just Grayson.
Yeah, I will say in my own life, in a different way, I am still in the place where I'm trying to let things be. I mean, my situation's different, but I do have 4 children and it's never clean.
Hmm.
But I used to, that definitely was a big stressor in our home. So like speaking of like stressors, I imagine, you know, the lack of having substantial, helpful village could be really hard on, your husband and you and, those relationships. What was that like for you guys?
Um, so I think before we even had children, Derek comes from a broken household. Um, his parents divorced when he was before he was 10. Um, my parents were together 30 something years, and they were together up until my mother passed. And um, I always thought it was really great. I saw, we all see our parents argue and whatnot, but um, it was really nice to kind of see my parents make it work.
Yeah,
Um, and Derek and I had always agreed that no matter what, we were going to try to make anything work. I always see things as if you love somebody enough to get married to them, you can love somebody enough to stay married to them. And he he and I have very similar views on that. And even after he was diagnosed, we had a lot of things that were not, we have a lot of things in common, but we have a lot of things that are very different. And his lack of some of the social skills, and I'm a very social person, it it kind of fogged things up a little bit. And we still to this day have some issues with, me wanting to be a little bit more social, him wanting to be a little bit more reserved. Um, so after we had kids, it was just solidified that, no matter what, whatever we encountered, we were going to figure it out and make this work. We keep the mindset that we as a couple are better as a team together than we are as a team, quote unquote, apart from each other. It's easier to raise children together. It's easier when you are just in a committed relationship to each other. And, you have to do things. I mean, marriage is work. It definitely is. And it's, I think, a little bit harder work when you have one or both of you have, disabilities. Um, and I'm such an advocate for marriage counseling for couples that have, you know, autism or have a kiddo with autism or anything along the lines, like with a disability, because I really do believe that people just they do so much better together than they can do apart. Um, and that's kind of what that's the motto that we go and live off of every day, is that we make a better team when we're together.
That's great. Yeah, I think I agree. I think just parenting and having, advocating and fighting for that marriage in general is really helpful when you're a parent. Um, and I see families that are separated and I see how much harder it is.
Yeah.
Um, so, and you were mentioning like, he likes to be more alone, you like to be more social. Has I'm imagining that just by becoming a parent of a child with such severe needs, there is a component that is socially isolating. Um, how has that been for you guys? I mean, is that something that's been favorable for Derek? Is that something that has been hard for him? And has it been harder for you, with, having your children that do have needs?
Yeah, I think it is very, um, I don't think that it really bothers Derek all that much. I mean, there are times where, yeah, he'll want to go, he would prefer to go out. Like we used to like going to like trivia at different bars and things like that. And I think that he probably misses that. Um, I can say, I think I have changed a little bit since I've had kids. I don't know if it's because of the children or if it's because of Grayson being so disabled. Um, and I don't even really like that word disabled, to be honest. Um, I just I I have a very, I don't know how to explain it. I do not do well out in public with Grayson. Derek does wonderfully out in public with Grayson. Um, so I feel like a lot of the isolation that happens to an extent is sometimes by my choice.
Mm.
Um, because Derek is the first one to be like, "Oh, you want to go somewhere, Grayson? Okay, like let's go." And I'm like, "All right, have fun," because I am not going with you. Like, it's just I am very, I know that like I shouldn't care about what other people think and whatnot, but I cannot deal with people giving us like evil looks while we're out, and people looking at me and being like, you're a mom and you're supposed to be able to control your kid and blah 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 blah. So I don't put myself in those situations. Um, but the social isolation, yeah, I mean that definitely, I'm alone a lot. most of the time. If I'm not alone, it's really just the techs and the BCBA who are here. And I do not have friends. My one and only, well, I have two friends. One lives in Florida and one lives in New Jersey. And I visit as much as I can. And my friend from Florida visits as much as he can, but that's really all I've got.
Yeah, that's gotta be hard. Um,
Yeah.
I will say you're not the first parent that's shared with me that they have a very hard time going out in the community with their child. And, me as the professional, I'm like, so be it. Let them think what they want. But it's got to be completely different as a parent. Like I know I would probably have a hard time like keeping my mouth closed. And then how would that be beneficial for my child if they had to see me,
Hmm.
lose my cool and, you know, that would probably be less helpful for my child. So,
Yeah.
I don't really have advice there, but
Yeah.
I think some people are doing really good about having little ways of educating people in the community, but I'm sure when you're tying that to the emotional response that you have when someone says something
Hmm.
uneducated, um, has got to be hard. So hopefully you can get to a point where you can navigate that and get out in the community with him more eventually. I don't know how that would be or how that would work, but um, I can imagine that's hard for sure.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, I've definitely gotten better with the ACT therapy, but I'm nowhere where I would like to be. And, hopefully someday I'll get there, but I will, I'm the first person to tell you that I am just not one to be comfortable with him out in public.
yeah, that'd be hard. So
Yeah.
I'm going to ask a question about something. Actually, we're friends on Facebook, and I saw you post something. I don't know if it was
Yeah.
yesterday, but just talking about like the administration and how there's talk of like taking away funding for caregivers and things like
Hmm.
that, because a lot of families utilize funding. Um, they get paid to provide that support to their child, maybe
Hmm.
respite or some sort of, therapy with intervention of some sort. And it might, if you don't know what life is like with a child with a disability, it might sound weird, like what, you're getting paid to be a parent.
Hmm.
But if you don't know, you don't know. Um, and I know one of the comments that you made was like, you can't work. You can't work a full-time gig. Um, how has that been for you guys? I know previously before you had your children, you were working and you now shared that you're more part-time. I don't know, I guess I'm clumping all this together. What are your thoughts there? And I'm sure that's been an extra stressor for you and Derek as well, just like finances.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I went from working full time at a hospital, well, a hospital organization, um, that I had amazing benefits for the whole family. Um, and when I lost my job in 2020, it went from being really, I mean, I was getting paid very well for the time, and um, yeah, I mean, I was working over 40 hours a week, and it was just, it was financially, it was great. Um, when I lost that job, um, and everything shut down because of COVID, um, the it was kind of like, I was just going to stay home, be a stay-at-home mom. I decided I was going to homeschool Roslyn for kindergarten, and then Grayson, his preschool program was shut down, so he was home with me too. Um, so that was okay for the time being. So I did take some time to I took about a year to just be a stay-at-home mom, and I did all of the things that I had to do that year. Um, and then I have a job now where I found a job shortly after, um, where I'm technically part-time. I work about 15 to 20 hours a week. I make my own schedule, with exception of Thursdays. I do have to go into the office on Thursdays. for about 3 to 4 hours. And I don't I don't have a set schedule though every other day. I can work if Grayson's having a great day. I can work kind of while he's home. If he's having a bad day, I work usually at night while he's like winding down or if he has like a tech here. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's very flexible. Um, the leadership is so amazing. They are very empathetic with like my situation. And I actually did start out as full time there, and then my mother passed away, and then um, things were just too wild with working full time and trying to manage Grayson's appointments. And then Roslyn needed to have some appointments as well, and it was just too much. So um, they were actually the ones who suggested I went part time. And I'm very, very happy that they didn't just can me because
Yeah,
I mean, they could have, they really could have.
sure.
And I was very fortunate for them to keep me. And they've kept me for 5 years now. Um, and I've been so incredibly lucky. Um, and they've just been great.
That's awesome. I mean, that that's kind of unheard of for
Yeah.
a lot of
Oh,
people.
yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
but I will say, the only thing I really have to compare your life to is mine, even though it's very, very different. But I will say that like I have worked situations where I was working 15, 20 hours a week, but we also are our kids are home, we homeschool them. I have a little one, and I will say that it's still not easy.
Hmm.
Juggling it all. Sometimes it's a lot easier just doing the 9 to 5. I mean, it's not possible for you. You don't really have that option, but I do want to say, for people listening, that it's still not easy
Oh,
trying to
yeah.
juggle it. So, I probably don't even understand what not easy means, in your definition, but that's great that you have that. But the sad truth is there's a lot of families that don't,
Hmm.
which is why it's so upsetting to think that, funding can be pulled from that. I think in general, that's just the trend. You kind of see funding being pulled from a lot of things or threats or
Yeah.
like, funding being pulled and then it's retracted because people, are advocating hard enough for it. So it's kind of the way that everything goes, sadly.
Hmm.
And I feel that these are the people that we need to support the most. Um, Everyone's situations are different, but yeah, it's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Um, so
Not to
oh,
mention, sorry, just to go
no, go
on a
ahead,
little,
go.
just, to even get approval to be a paid caregiver is nearly impossible.
Mm,
I mean, just being completely honest, at least for a kid like Grayson, I went through over a year of fighting with the insurance company to try to become a paid caregiver. And then when I finally was able to find a company that was going to like join me with like the appeals and everything to get the approval, I got hired. I started like my training. I did all of my training, did all of my classes that I needed to do, and got like all of my like first aid, my clearances, everything. Um, and then only for them to call me one day and say, "Oh yeah, well his insurance isn't going to cover it." So yeah, we had to
so they
basically just
approved of it and then took it away.
yeah. So they said that they would only approve because of his seizure disorder, they would only approve nursing care for him. So this was now like 2 or 3 years ago. But I fought for over a year to try to get me to be the
Mm.
paid caregiver. And I even tried like when a nurse isn't available, if I could be a paid caregiver so that when I lose hours at work because I can't work when he's home, can I get paid to, be a caregiver during that time? No. It was a nightmare going through. Like I was on phone calls, video chats, like so many different appeal meetings with doctors and insurance companies, and no, nobody would approve it. So yesterday when RFK or whenever that was, RFK Jr. was like, "Oh, it's like Medicaid fraud or whatever." it maybe some people do take advantage of the system, but I can
Sure.
tell you it is very, very, very difficult to even get approved in the first place. So,
Well, I mean, also the other piece is that it's not easy to find staff.
oh my gosh, no.
So, like, you're kind of leaving families in the situation where, okay, you can't work,
Hmm.
you can't find staff, and then even if you do, you're not getting the best of the best. I mean, I'm not saying that everyone's not, you probably have some really great staff, but I'm saying like you're not getting this large pool of all these highly qualified people because the funding in itself isn't phenomenal. I
Oh
mean, I'm
yeah.
speaking from what I know of where the areas that I live in, but I'm assuming that it's probably similar all over the place. Um, yeah, it's just you're really boxing families in. I mean, what do
Hmm.
you do at that point? Okay, I'm not going to work. People can't live on one income nowadays as it is.
Yeah.
So, what if they're a
Yeah.
single parent because the divorce rates did get the best of them? It's just really, it's very
Yeah.
frustrating.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I consider us kind of lucky. We have a nurse that's with us 40 hours a week while he's at school. And, we're in more of like a rural part of, you know, our county, but, we're in enough of a populated area that, we're very lucky. But I can't imagine being in like upstate Pennsylvania in the middle of like the
Mm.
mountains with no agencies. Like we would never be able to survive up there because we need the services. Um,
Yeah, and if they're not going
I
to let
just,
you help your child, what are you going to do?
exactly. Yeah. So I feel for the people who really do rely on
Yeah,
being paid caregivers because it's just, I mean, it's very essential for some people to live.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Um, so I know we kind of got to wrap up here, shortly, but I just wanted to kind of ask a couple questions.
Mhm.
When we talk about like our village and our support system, what are some things that you felt like truly helps or has helped versus things that haven't? Because you're speaking to someone that could be part of someone's village. How would someone like I help? Or give some examples of things that you've experienced.
Um, I think that having people, like if you're going to volunteer or like suggest that you're available for like babysitting, for example, um, don't just say it to say it. Um,
Hmm.
if you're going to volunteer and say that you can babysit or, you can help out, actually do it. Um, don't give false hope to a parent. Um, because like I said, some of us really do rely on those people. Um, I do think that is probably the biggest thing that a person off the street could do to help. Um, I think that I also believe that like less is more. So the less people that you have sometimes is better. Like I said, we don't have a whole lot of outside agency help. Um, but sometimes it just works out better that way. It's less confusion, it's less like mixture of schedules, and it's better for people to have like more close relationships with Grayson if I don't have like five people that are like kind of rotating and all of that. So, um, yeah, I mean, I think that is another big one.
Yeah, I think that being authentic with your offerings is probably really important. Um, because you look forward to it so much, and then okay, where are you?
Yeah,
That was great. That was a lot of great lip service. Thank you.
yeah.
Um,
Yep.
uh, what was the hardest part of building your support system? And you had to rebuild it. So what was the hardest part of that?
Um, I think I think grieving, honestly. Um, because after each loss that we've had to grieve and then kind of try to patch up that loss and find someone else or find something else to fill that void in a way. Um, Not saying anything would ever really fill those spots because they won't. Um,
Hmm.
but when we lost Rick, for example, I mean, he was such a huge part of our kid's life that, I mean, we just, I felt so lost. I mean, we could call him at the drop of a hat. He would be over here in 5 minutes, and he had no problems.
Wow.
Um, really just jumping in, and Grayson loved him so much and respected him so much. Like he would really listen to him. Even sometimes when I couldn't deal with him, Rick could deal with him. Um, and so that's probably the hardest part about it, is having to rebuild and having to find other alternatives, because you never really can, but you try.
Probably find a different version of, great. It's never going to replace that exact person. And I'm imagining that the grieving doesn't just happen with your family, but also when you lose a good tech or a BCBA. Imagine that's probably
Oh
really
yes,
hard.
absolutely. Yep. Because you do develop such strong relationships with them. I know you're not supposed to, and you're supposed to keep things like, quote, professional. But when you have people in your house, the same people in your house every day for sometimes 12 hours a day, it's hard not to.
For sure. And I think there's a component to that that it's good, that it's real, that it's raw. I think you can still do a nice little dance of being professional, but also being real and knowing someone really well. But it can be tricky for some, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. In your role as a BCBA and through your experience working with this population and families, especially, um, have you encountered one thing that has been more of like a barrier to people getting, like, building their village? Like, are people having, or do other families have issues building their village because of a particular thing?
I think it's varying things, but there are times where I've seen more recently than more very recently, a lot of grandparents caring for their grandchildren, and they don't know how to access information using the internet in the way that
Um,
someone closer to our age might. Or they're trying to just do everything alone, figuring out their own, and they're just fumbling versus finding someone that's lived it and experienced it. One of my favorite things to do is when I get to know like clients and I see their personality and I find like, oh wow, this mom's really cool, this dad's really cool. And then I find another mom or dad that I like, they would really mesh well. I ask them, can I connect you? Because even though, like, yeah, quote unquote, I'm an expert and I'm a professional in the field, there's nothing like having another parent that walked through it. Um, so I think like it's not always easy because people aren't always ready. Like even if they're living the very, very similar life, their child very similar and, whatever. Some people aren't in their grieving journey in the same place and they're not ready to do that. Or,
mhm.
um, so I think like sometimes grief impacts it. I think sometimes depending upon the structure of the family. Um, and I think it's really important to find someone that can kind of mentor you through those steps, if possible.
Yeah,
Um, so. But it
yeah.
always
I
breaks my
wish that.
heart.
Sorry, go
God, I'm
ahead.
sorry. It just breaks my heart when I see like the grandparent trying to navigate it. Like they had their kids. They did their job, and their job is to be a grandparent now. And now they're having to raise a child older, bones are cracking, they're achy, they don't know how to use technology, and they're just so lost. And that's just probably one of the most heartbreaking situations that I've been coming across a lot recently.
Yeah, I can only imagine that that would be, it's like navigating a whole different world for them.
Yeah.
That's really
So
hard.
many more
But
barriers.
oh, absolutely. Yeah. No, and honestly, I wish that other agencies would, and other BCBAs would connect parents the way that you just mentioned, because it would make such a difference for me personally if I had more connections to parents that had kids like mine.
Well, I think that the field in general has a lot of needs, and that's something I'm really passionate about. So
Mhm.
I I love all your ideas, and I'm not saying I'm be able to implement all of them, but I'm here, I'm listening, and I hope that other professionals do listen as well. Because I think there's so many needs. Like there's not enough parent support groups. There's barely any sibling support groups. There's
Hmm.
not enough social skills groups. Um, we're lacking. But I will say that from a professional standpoint, it's hard.
Yeah.
I've seen it try to be introduced, and it's a lot of times you see it fail and crumble. But it doesn't mean that we should stop because the need is there.
Yeah. I can only imagine being on your side of things and feeling almost like you aren't able to help because of how there are just no services or things just aren't available.
Yeah, and it's also hard too, like depending upon where you are within your organization, there's only so many families that I contact versus being able to say, like, okay, we have 200 clients, I might only contact 10. So that my span of my who I can reach might be more limited. But
Yeah,
yeah, I think we have areas for improvement there for sure.
absolutely. There's always room to grow.
For sure.
All right. Thank you, Toni. I think you asked a lot of really important questions, and hopefully my answers helped somebody or someone listening. Next episode, we will be talking about attitudes towards an autism diagnosis, whether it be your own or your child's, and how your attitude can change your perspective on your future or your present day life.
Well, that'll be a very great topic for us to discuss. So, thank you so much for listening. You can find us on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and Amazon. Please share with anyone that you think that could benefit, and feel free to comment below about anything that you found helpful in this episode, or even topics that you might be interested in discussing in the future. Bye.
Bye.
Sip and stim, sip and stim.